Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Awakened DLC, Pure Survival Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Chapter 2, entitled Infidels. We are back in, the pearly grip of Dead Space, but you already knew that, and we're going to be doing some flying around in space, picking up some boxes, and we're going to be going on to I think it's the Terra Nova, which is one of the flotillas that you visited during the campaign. Which, it's nice to get, to go back to a place we've been to before and used in a different context. The only problem is, I think this particular ship is filled with all the rooms in this game that I dislike. Every single one of them is a pretty rough room. And they've been used to less dangerous effect in this DLC. They're much less challenging, but they're also going to be enemies that you've not seen before. But luckily enough, they move identically to the skinny black necromorph weird feeder things. I think they're called feeders. There's a bunch of them. They like to eat you. It's pretty much every necromorph I've just described. But we're going to be moving towards a power source so that we can get to, I think it's the conning tower and a reactor and various other space engineering bullshit that just means shoot a lot of things, pick up some various stuff and take it from A to B. This is definitely where it starts getting a little bit more unique as you're introduced to this new church, as they call it. And I do think that this game has got some fantastic fiction that could be used so much better than it is. There's a legitimately creepy vibe about what is about to take place here, and this is your first encounter with them. There's two of them just here, and as interesting and twisted as they seem, they're just people with bags on their heads and dismembered hands that have been turned into some kind of weapon, which I suppose sounds really disturbing, but in a Dead Space game they're a lot tamer than a lot of things that you fight, and they die just as swiftly as everything else with the setup that we're using. And if you watch their animation, as I mentioned, they look exactly like the feeders, which means they could literally just be animated exactly the same, so essentially the same enemy, which once again could lead back to thinking that this DLC is a little bit lazy, but I'll leave you to bear that judgment, and depending on how you play it and if you play it. But here is more of the bullshit hallucinations as we get influenced by the moons. There is a pretty interesting narrative going through this with the leader. I do like the concept of him. I do think he's got a cool voice. It definitely gives me a Sunshine feeling with the end of that film, where they find the other ship, the other Icarus that went before them. And I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil it for anybody if you've not seen that film, but definitely one of Danny Boyle's best in my opinion, because it sums up everything a science fiction horror film should be. A sense of isolation, a sense of claustrophobia, and something else, which, just watch it, great film. But this is quite interesting. There's a couple of necromorphs pinned up in almost effigy towards this infidel religion, and I was almost certain that they were going to attack at some point, and they never did, to Visceral's credit. This is the bit I don't like. You can't shoot these people in this room, and when you trigger it and you get to a certain point, they're all going to attack you, but they only attack you in the really crazy vision mode, so your screen's going to be all messed up, it's going to blink in and out of reality. So I just sit in this corner, then I force gun anything that comes towards me, and then shoot them with a seeker rifle while they're on the floor. The only time that this gets even remotely hairy is there's a vent above you that's going to go through, and I think 2 or 3 of these are going to fall directly in front of you. If you know it's going to come, you'll have no issue with it, but if you don't, it might surprise you. So just keep your head on a swivel. I mean, look at this, look how powerful this is. It's the ultimate crowd control. The only time it even gets remotely tense is when you have to reload, and if your reload's pretty swift, which it should be, you're never in trouble. It's so powerful. But now that you've survived that little gauntlet, the tram is going to show up. It's going to take us to the next sequence. Loot the containers, pick up as much as you can. There's no bodies to stamp on, which is kind of tight, seeing as how we're in pure survival, but You should have plenty of ammo, unless you're being extremely frivolous with it, and there's not that much to shoot, so you should be okay. Until the next bench, anyway, and there's a bench coming up. But that right there is me trimming out the sections on the train, because they do take a while, and I think it's hiding loading, because it takes too long for that to be a conscious mechanic. But once again, break the boxes, smash everything open, and use the bench to refill on ammo. You're going to need it, and there's only, you know, this and the next chapter where you're going to need it, so you won't be needing it for too much longer, unfortunately. But people might be curious as to projects that probably should have started on my channel. One of them is Gears of War Judgment. It's technically out in my country. It came out today, but I didn't get my copy because of balls up and when I ordered it. I did pre-order it, but for some reason it didn't go through, and they'd never sent it me, so I had to order it late. So I'm going to get it tomorrow, which really sucks. A lot of people are curious of what I'm going to be doing with it, and I've been doing a lot of looking into the achievements, looking into what people are talking about, and the whole declassified angle seems like the way to go. And I noticed that there was an achievement for getting these declassified stars on Insane, which is obviously going to be the most challenging the game will be, and probably the one that people are going to need the most help with. So my guide is not going to be the first, or one of the first, like it was with Gears 3. The main reason my last boss video on Gears 3 is so popular or so successful is because it was the first on YouTube. That's very cheap. Watch this. Luckily enough, it doesn't do any damage, so you're not in any real danger, I don't think. But, so instead of being first, I'm going to have to make it astounding. And I always try to make my walkthroughs astounding. I just need to make a conscious effort to make this one even better. So it's going to be all stars on Insane, because you need to get all the stars. And I don't know how hard it's going to be, but I've got faith I can do it. I will be doing it solo. It will not be co-op. And hopefully it's going to help a lot of people. I'm excited. Not so much excited for Gears, more excited for the prospect of making another Gears guide. But this sequence here, you're going to get attacked by the Scooby-Doo ghost fisherman. So just, you know, stasis them, smash them with whatever guns you're using. Just be careful of him. Really cheap. I don't think there's a way to damage him in this fight. You just want to avoid him, and he has this instant transmission move where he just pops up next to you and swings at you with the bone saws. And he does a lot of damage too, which, on top of everything else, is kind of unnecessary. Here come the dirty children. I come down here trying to lure them down the stairs, but they use the vent instead, so this strategy doesn't really work. You're in no danger because, you know, Force Gun and those little kids, it's just a bloodbath. Here is the douchebag with the bone saw again, proselytizing to us about his fancy religion. There he gets a cheap smack on me. I say it does a lot of damage. My life's not very high, so it doesn't do too much. But as soon as he starts talking to Carver, that sequence is over. You know, pick up as much ammo and resource as you can. If you're on pure survival, you won't get ammo, you'll just get resource, but you know what I meant. And then proceed onwards. But do you know something I didn't know? How soon BioShock Infinite was coming out. Oh, be careful here, this guy's going to get up. There you go. He's the only guy though, so don't worry, there's no more. BioShock Infinite is out in 4 days. I think that's next Tuesday. That's unbelievable. I cannot wait for that game. And it means that I'm going to be really busy over this weekend. And I have my girlfriend with me, which hopefully I'll be able to moderate time between the two, because she is more important than YouTube. Even though sometimes it might not seem that way. But keep on looting the lockers, you know, finding all the ammunition that you can. And, you know, the one thing that really got me with this DLC is I know exactly where we are. Why? Because we've been through here. And that's one of the things that really gets me. I'm all for going back through a section and having it differently, but this is... it's too much. It really is. And you can throw in your fancy little vignetting and, you know, scan lines and colour correction. It's still the same place. I don't know. Dead Space 4's been canned. You know, EA have put them on a back burner. Visceral, I assume, are focusing on Army of Two, the cartel. The Devil's Cartel. I have no idea. You know, I'm so uninterested in that game, it's almost unbearable. So it just makes me wonder what the future was intended to be for this series. Because the end of this DLC, it kind of gets as ridiculous as it's going to be. And it sets up a premise that I don't think is half as endearing as the end of Dead Space 2. And it just leaves me with the question, where the hell did they think this was going to go? Because to me, I would have hoped for a planet-sized boss. I would have loved to control a ship in space fighting a planet. I think that would have been the ultimate last boss. I'm not entirely sure what perspective you would have fought it from, or how it would have worked, but I think that would have been much cooler than the terrible boss at the end of Dead Space 3, and the interesting sequence at the end of this, which you're going to be seeing on the next video, which is Perdition. But that's before we go into this room and we do another one of those crazy synapsy dream sequency things. So there's a lot of resource in this room for a reason. You're about to use a little bit of ammo, but it's not too bad. There it is. There is the crazy necromorph cell synapse, whatever, no idea. And we're back in this beautiful place. That means our buddies found us too, and here we go with the little scrubbers. So once again, I'm going to kite these like I did the first time, but I think on this encounter you have to shoot the marker. So what's going to happen is, if you kite for about a minute, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less, a gold light is going to shine, and then Isaac is going to notice a marker. There's the light. There's Isaac noticing the marker. Then all you need to do is shoot it, I believe, 3 times with the Seeker rifle, and the section is done. And get good at that, guys, because you're going to be doing this 3 times in the next sequence, and you're going to be fighting that guy. So get prepared to stay in that place a little bit longer than what we just did then. But that's the end of Chapter 2. Nothing too challenging yet. The next one's got a couple of tricky moments, and the epiphany that you've all been waiting for. So thanks for watching, and you take care now.